Pennsylvania could become the next state to investigate last year's presidential election. State Senator Doug Mastriano is pushing for an audit and has privately briefed other senators on his plan. The Republican chairs the State Senate Intergovernmental Operations Committee. Mastriano could subpoena Pennsylvania counties if he gets a majority vote from the committee. In June, Mastriano went to Arizona to observe its controversial audit in the state's largest county. The investigation is fueled by former President Trump's baseless claims about his election defeat. John Micek joins me now with more. He is the editor-in-chief of the Pennsylvania Capital-Star. John, welcome. Good to see you again. So Pennsylvania was one of a handful of states where the Trump campaign deployed legal challenges. What did they argue, and where did those challenges end up?
Elaine, as in every other state in the wake of the election, the Trump campaign attempted to claim that the election had been stolen from them. They failed on every count in state and in federal courts.
And Pennsylvania already conducted what's known as a risk-limiting audit of the 2020 election, in addition to every county submitting a sample of votes mandated by state law. What did those reveal?
As was the case in every other state, nothing. There was no fraud in any material way that would have affected the outcome of the election. And the results that President Joe Biden won the state by more than 80,000 votes, those results stood.
Well, John, tell us more about State Senator Doug Mastriano. Why is he pushing for a new audit of the 2020 election?
Sure. Elaine, this is a bit of political performance art on the part of Senator Mastriano, who was elected in a special election out of Franklin County in 2019. He, too, has spread baseless claims of election fraud. He's been widely mentioned as a potential Republican candidate for governor in 2022. He claims to have spoken with former President Trump about those ambitions. And a lot of this feels like just sort of currying favor with the former president as he tries to advance his own ambitions. Again, there's been no evidence of any substantial election fraud that would have affected the outcome of the election in Pennsylvania last November.
Well, in Tioga County, officials have beefed up security. What can you tell us, John, about threats against officials there?
We have sadly seen that, Elaine. Tioga County, along with a Republican county, no less, along with York County, a Republican-dominated county, and Philadelphia, were targeted by Senator Mastriano, and he asked them to turn over their voting machines, documents, zip drives, all kinds of different stuff. Tioga County refused. Officials there, again, Republican officials, no less, have been on the receiving end of threats. It's a very sad state of affairs. York County officials down there were picketed last week, and Philadelphia County is supposed to be meeting, the Board of Commissioners there is supposed to be meeting on Friday, the day before the July 31st deadline that Senator Mastriano has set for them to respond. One suspects that Philadelphia is not going to cooperate in this in a very Philadelphia way.
Yeah, I'd say so. All right. John Micek, good to see you again. John, thank you so much.
Thank you.